past Saturday morning, a man named Robert Bowers walked into the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh and shot and killed 11 members of the congregation. This egregious act took place during a peaceful gathering to celebrate the coming of Shabbat, a weekly celebration of the Jewish day of rest lasting from Friday evening to Saturday evening. We are deeply disturbed by this horrific display of anti-Semitism and devastated by the lives that have been stolen from our community.
As I walked down the stairs of Pop, following French class on Saturday, my phone began to vibrate. As I picked it up, I heard my mother's cries, and the only two words I was able to hear were "Saba" and "shot." In that moment, I could feel myself getting ready to throw up. But as my mom continued to speak, between large breaths and heavy sighs, I learned that my Saba, grandfather in Hebrew, had not died. In fact, he had been saved. That morning, my grandma had a fall, and she was too sick for him to leave her side. My Saba, Rabbi Alvin Birkin, has attended every Shabbat morning service at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh for the past 35 years. For 23 years, he served as the congregation's rabbi, and for the last 12 years, he continued to pray there in retirement. I know he's absolutely heartbroken by what happened on Saturday at Shabbat services. Several of his friends and fellow congregants are now dead. I've attended the Tree of Life since I was a baby. My mother and her siblings grew up there, and then my mother and aunt both got married there. It is a special place, a place full of love, spirit, and hope. And the people who died are the most intelligent, amazing people. Each time I visited my grandparents, standing beside my Saba on the bima as he led the congregation in prayer, I was surrounded by energy and love. I was so lucky for my time with the best people. My uncle, Rabbi Jonathan Birkin, and my mother are both with my Saba in Pittsburgh right now. And the question that continues to be asked by so many is, what are we going to do about this? My uncle suggests the following: vote and give back, help someone else feel better, hug your loved ones, and finally, if you are Jewish, go to shul. Learn why being Jewish matters. Continue to pray. Those 11 did not deserve this. They were sisters, brothers, mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, grandparents, even great-grandparents. This is a tragedy. We will now ask to have a moment of silence to honor the victims who lost their lives on Saturday morning.
Thank you. The Jewish Student Organization, with the support of the Religious Life Council and the Diversity Council, will be having a Remembrance Shabbat service this Friday night at 8:00 p.m. at the Mem Couches. It is important for us to remain in our usual location of worship to show that although we are disturbed by this event, we are not afraid to continue praying. We will sing to welcome the Sabbath, sing Misha Berach, our prayer for healing, recite the Mourner's Kaddish, and will light candles in honor of the 11 people who lost their lives. We would greatly appreciate the community's support in honoring the victims of this tragedy and standing with the Jewish community. After the Shabbat service, we will have an opportunity for people to stay behind and share thoughts or emotions surrounding the event. While we are distraught over Saturday's hateful massacre, we hope to offer meaningful support and begin to heal as a community.
And if anyone in the community wants to talk about this horrific event, please feel free to reach out to me, Hunter, Caroline, our Vice Presidents Isabella Feinberg and Kate Levy, or any adult you trust. We will happily talk with you through this troubling moment.
Thank you all in advance for your support during this difficult time.
Thank you, Jack and Hunter and Caroline. I've been struggling in recent days on a number of fronts. I've been struggling in part to hang on to my optimism and belief in humanity, which fundamentally is my nature. I've also been struggling to avoid the numbness that comes with too much violence and senseless loss. I worry at moments that I'm getting used to it. Protecting ourselves with this numbness, protecting ourselves from feeling the pain of others too acutely, may be a natural reaction. But we lose something essential in our humanity if we ever allow this to become normal, if the empathy we feel for others ever gets scabbed over or calloused. I spoke to the faculty yesterday, and I observed that in our work here, in our guiding and mentoring all of you young men and women, we are at our best when we are sensitive to the pain and difficulty that adolescents feel. We may be firm and even tough at times to help prepare you, but it is always done in a careful, measured way based on a thoughtfully cultivated relationship, and an understanding of how to test and stretch you in a humane and caring way. And it only works when all of you are aware that we, your teachers, care deeply about you, even as we test and stretch you. When we do this, I believe we help you grow. And I believe we are also modeling for you the importance of empathy and compassion in any relationship. Empathy and compassion are not signs of weakness. There is great strength and resolve when we take the time to understand and connect to others. It takes far less effort to harden ourselves, to ignore what someone else is experiencing, to look away. So even if I struggle, I refuse to give in and feel numb. And in fending off the numbness, I have to distinguish between different types of loss and tragedy. Some instances that feel unavoidable, others that do not. When I read about a plane that goes down off of Indonesia, I am struck by that loss. I know that there's great pain. With that comes some understanding that there is human imperfection, perhaps human error, perhaps the weather. And it is unlikely that we will ever fully eliminate such factors from our lives. And then there are events like the senseless tragedy at the Tree of Life Synagogue, which stems from virulent anti-Semitism, from ignorance that spawns hatred, from a current mindset or attitude that is reared up in our country that seems to encourage us to give in to our worst impulses, our most base and irrational fear of the perceived other. And I think you all know how close to home this hits. Caroline just spoke very personally about it. The long-serving rabbi and spiritual leader of this synagogue is Teddy, Caroline, and Drew Friedman's grandfather, Mrs. Friedman's father. Had it not been for their grandmother's health, as Caroline said, that morning he would have been in his office at the synagogue, and he would have sat in his usual place in the back row during the service, the same row where every one of his fellow congregants, who also typically shared that row, is now dead. And in response to all of this, I'm not hearing a reassuring national message that unifies us against the hatred that led to this act. In the few days leading up to the attack in Pittsburgh, we've had pipe bombs that target people with opposing ideas, anti-Semitic and paranoid rants against Holocaust survivor George Soros, and bizarre, unfounded references to unknown Middle Easterners mixed into the caravan of refugees making their way through Central America. A caravan that is somehow preposterously conveyed as a Jewish plot and connected somehow to Jewish relief agencies. In response, we hear deflection, we hear that the media is to blame, we hear more conspiracy theories. So I look for other voices. Mrs. Friedman's brother, as Caroline mentioned, Jonathan Burkham, is also a rabbi. And he wrote a piece describing his return to Pittsburgh the day after the massacre. He wrote, "After landing, I bought a bottle of water at the Pittsburgh airport. The salesman was so friendly that I quipped how I had forgotten how nice people are in this city. 'It's been a tough day for us, sir.' She responded with a tear in her eye. I told her why I was there and where I was from. We both shed tears. I was crying and I hadn't even rented my car yet." After meeting up with his father, they go together to a memorial vigil where clergy of all faiths had come to pray and pay respects. He goes on to say, we maneuvered between throngs of people from all backgrounds, ages, and attires, stopping every 3 steps to hug someone he knew or someone he hadn't seen in 25 years. Those reunions were tearful and were the main reason I came in the first place. When people experience trauma, the sudden realization that they are not alone triggers deep emotions. Tears flow, and that flow is the first movement towards healing. As Rabbi Birkin grapples with the enormity of this hate crime, he reflects on his childhood neighborhood where all this occurred, a place that was always diverse religiously, socioeconomically, racially, and ethnically. It's a place where people felt a profound sense of hominess and true concern for one another. It's a place where people don't talk about caring for each other, they simply do it. He goes on, this is the place that was turned upside down on Shabbat morning at Tree of Life. But one speaker after another at the memorial echoed the same recurring theme. Hate will not defeat love. We will recover. We will rebuild. We will overcome. I find great power in his hope, power in his faith, power in his firm belief that this community will rebuild. And through his words, I too come back to my own optimism and ultimately my refusal to submit to my misgivings. It is at these moments that I understand all the more clearly the importance of what we do here at this school at Lawrenceville. We build our community on a commitment to inclusion and equity, on a commitment to basic respect, a commitment to truth, a commitment to real information, the free flow of rational ideas and civil informed debate. Civil debate around the Harkness table and civil debate more broadly in our community. These are all powerful notions that are fundamental to who we are and what we believe in. And when we work together to reinforce these beliefs in this community, when we greet each other on the pathway, whether or not we've met before, when we work to engage in civil, respectful discourse, even as we disagree, when we assume positive intentions in all of our daily encounters, and when we allow compassion and trust to guide our actions, it is a clear rejection of the fear and base impulses that seem to be welling up all around us. And in fact, it is an act of faith. Faith that we can do better. Faith that we can build a better world. The world needs this faith right now. And it starts with how we live together and work together right here in this community. Thank you very much.